Hey guys, welcome. Any tool can be used for good or bad. It's really the ethics of the artist using it. John Knoll, American Visual Effects Supervisor and Chief Creative Officer. With this quote in mind, engineers possess a very powerful tool, one of which incorporates scientific, mathematical, as well as communicative competence. With all this in mind, it is really up to the ethics of these engineers to really bring this tool into that of good light or of that of within the shadows of society. The purpose of this project, for one, is to explain what exactly is the NSPE, the National Society of Professional Engineers, as well as their code of ethics, and for two, to analyze a real-world application violation in which evidently correlates itself to a particular code within the code of ethics. In order to do so, however, we must find out what is the credentiality of the NSPE in the first place. Who are the professionals running this organization, as well as the organizational structure of the Code of Ethics itself. The NSPE is composed of licensed professional engineers representative of 53 state and territorial societies within the U.S. Founded in 1934, the NSPE organization strives for the public awareness within professional engineers, as well as the protection of civilians as well as corporations from inadequate practitioners, and lastly, just to be ethical and to squander what is deemed unethical within the business or engineering worlds, or any world to that matter. Nextly, we would like to look at the structure of the Code of Ethics. The Code of Ethics is divided up into four main categories, those being the preamble, fundamental canons, rules of practice, and professional obligations. Within the Roman numerals, we can see how it's divided up into those being numbers as well as letters, with the numbers being the main focus areas within the main topics, as well as the letters, which implies a specific rule that the NSPE incorporated from analyzing a previous violation in the past. With understanding the Code of Ethics structure as well as the NSPE, we can further look into now our real-world application case, being that of 99-10. In this case, we look at that of two engineers and one client, in which the original engineer, Engineer B, presumably just didn't do the required job for building his construction project for the client, and thus evidently just had a lot of omissions and errors in which the client picked up on and just had to do this communication with them. And evidently he just hired a new engineer, that of Engineer A, to really look over the reports of the previous engineer and to come up with his own proposals and reports, in which he did and got compensated a lot of money because of it. Completely unethical to the Code of Ethics. And here's the analysis of why. Pertaining to that of Roman numeral 7, engineers shall not attempt to injure maliciously or falsely, directly or indirectly, the professional reputation, prospects, practice, or employment of other engineers. Engineers who believe others are guilty of unethical or illegal practice shall not present such information to the proper authority for action. And in even more further contextual analysis, we can see how this violation follows suit to that of Roman numeral 3.7a, in which engineers in private practice shall not review the work of another engineer for the same client, except with the knowledge of such engineer, or unless the connection of such engineer with the work has been fully terminated. This brings us into our significance, in which recognizing how real-world engineering violations, such as the one depicted, illustrates an importance in understanding how the Code of Ethics came to be, as well as how fundamentally the code can be revamped over time in order to protect the lives and prospects of future generations to come. Lastly, to remember the functionality of the engineer is to recognize not only the toolbox that he uses, but the arm in which operates it. Thank you.